This message may be shocking to many millennials. If you are one, you might want to sit down. Right now, loads of people are searching the following on Depop. Low-rise jeans, halter top, velour tracksuit, puka shell necklace, disc belt. You likely placed these in the dark of your closet in 2004, never to be seen again. But if you can find it in yourself to dust them off, there are a lot of people who will give you money for them. Sell on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
Shh. Hear that? Big waves are calling. Dive into refreshment with Kona Big Wave. Tropical flavor and the taste of aloha in every drop. So crack one open and let the great taste roll in. Kona Big Wave, Liquid Aloha. Copyright 2025 Kona Brewing Co., St. Louis, Missouri. Mahalo for enjoying responsibly.
And now a message from McAfee.
Your package couldn't be delivered.
You owe thousands in unpaid tolls!
You want a free gift.
If texts like these sound familiar, McAfee can help. McAfee automatically identifies text and email scams as well as AI-generated audio to help you stay safe. If they're faking it, they're not making it past us. Get award-winning scam detection today. McAfee.com/keepitreal.
When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
Welcome to the chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 203 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You've heard him on the Tough Cover radio show. It is Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and the listeners are doing even better because they can actually hear me now in clear audio with a new microphone, so we're back and better than ever.
All right. Glad to hear that. The listeners will definitely be glad to hear that. And I think we've got the audio dialed in a little better for the live show. So if you guys are watching live, you can let us know. We are recording a little bit off our normal schedule today, Tuesday, midday. Mark's on the road, and so we're going to try to keep this one a little shorter because I've got to be back at work in an hour. But let's dive right in, and let's start off with the Thursday night football game. We have the Washington Commanders at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers win 27-18. It wasn't really that close. My top takeaway from this game is that Jerry Jones done messed up trading Micah Parsons. His stat line wasn't big, 2 tackles and a half a sack, but he was dominant again. He drew 3 flags. He pressured Jaden Daniels on an interception. He has a 25% win rate as a pass rusher right now. And I meant to look up where that ranked, and I forgot, so I'll do it while Mark talks in a second, and I'll come back to it. But the Packers' defense has looked awesome through 2 games. They have 4 or more sacks, have allowed 60 or less rushing yards, and 200 or less net passing yards in each of their first 2 games. And they're the only team in the Super Bowl era to do that. And they did it against the Lions and the Commanders, both teams that went far in the playoffs last year. So that is worth mentioning. The Commanders' offense has looked pretty rough through 2 games, but the Packers have been really good defensively. So it's hard to parse out why that is right now. They also weren't great against a Giants defense that just got shredded by the Cowboys. So you start to try to stack those things up and figure it out. But more worryingly for the Commanders is injuries have started to pile up. Austin Eckler tore his Achilles. He's out for the year. Noah Brown suffered a groin injury. Jonathan Jones got hurt. Brandon Coleman got hurt. Jaden Daniels had an MRI on his knee, and he's in doubt for this week. And so a lot of things piling up here for the Commanders. And then the last thing I'll mention, because I mentioned it last week, but Josh Jacobs is on record watch. He now has a rushing touchdown in 11 straight games. He trails only LaDainian Tomlinson, who did it in 12 straight games in 2004. So he can tie that record next week. So, Mark, what were your top takeaways from this one?
Yeah, first off on Green Bay, I mean, I'm not someone who says, like, if you're doing power rankings in a season, you probably, like, shouldn't remove the Super Bowl champion if they're, like, 2-0. So I think the Eagles, for the people out there that do power rankings, should probably still be one. But I will say Green Bay's making a heck of a compelling case for a team that didn't win the Super Bowl to be ranked 1, even though the Eagles are number 1. That's how good Green Bay's look. That's how impressive the quality of opponent has been in both weeks. The only thing I guess they've been home both weeks. That's one thing you could say. Lambeau, a tough place to play even early in the year. The one thing that it annoys me a little bit, I think they'd be doing 95% of this even before they traded for Micah Parsons. But now the fact that they traded for Micah Parsons kind of has to color every conversation that we have about the Packers, where it's like, oh, once they traded for Parsons, that's really when it leveled up. I really think they would have been the top competitor to Philadelphia before trading for Parsons this offseason. And I think they'd be 2-0 if they didn't trade for Parsons. And Parsons is awesome. He's going to only help them. The thing I'm annoyed about is that you know how high I was on the Packers before the Parsons trade, and now it just feels like the only thing that gets brought up when the Packers come up on any national podcast, any show, it's just like, man, can you believe Dallas traded him Parsons? And it's like, Jordan Love's been amazing in these first 2 games with not a wide receiver 1 to be found out there. Tucker Kraft really seems to have elevated to be maybe one of those top 5 tight ends in the sport. And I just think the Packers have everything you could want. I've seen some people talking about how amazing Edgerrin Cooper has been, about how Rashawn Gary's really benefited on the other side of Parsons. Like, this Packers team scares the absolute daylights out of me as an Eagles fan. So yeah. And then on the other side, I'm going to keep this short too, but Washington, I think a lot of people have watched that game. And this happens with national TV games. We overreact to not just the winner, but to the loser. I understand Washington's had some problems early in the season. Now Jaden's banged up. I would say that the most legitimate of those problems is that they don't have a real running game. They're going to be almost entirely relying on Bill Krosky-Merritt. They probably shouldn't have just traded Brian Robinson for nothing. Yep. That was a dumb thing to do at that point of the season. If they did it 3 months before and found a replacement, that's a little bit of a different conversation. But now that Eckler's done for the year, you have some problems in the running back room, and you don't have a lot of picks to go trade for a running back either. They've traded a lot of their picks for old players already, so I don't know if that's the option. That I did see that they brought in a bunch of people to work them out. But besides the running back issue, I do just want to say I think Washington's still a playoff team and still a pretty good team. And as long as Jaden's mostly healthy, you look at the way that the defense played against New York in week 1, and then New York came out and had a gazillion yards and put up 37 points against a bad defense. But I think that what you saw in week 2 from the Giants shows that maybe the offense isn't just totally incompetent, and a defense holding that offense to 6 points, I think, is always going to be impressive. So what Washington did defensively in week 1, I'm not willing to totally throw away in the trash, simply because maybe the best team in the NFL, if not a top 3 team in the NFL, put up 27 on them. So I'm still optimistic that Dan Quinn has taken steps with that defense, and it's on the offense to kind of figure their stuff out, which I think they will long term.
Yeah. Parsons, by the way, ranks 4th among edge rushers in win rate. Among guys that have 50 or more pass rush reps. He's behind Will Anderson, Myles Garrett, and Trey Hendrickson right now. So I said I was going to look that up. But let's spin this forward into the Sunday slate. Cleveland at Baltimore. Baltimore wins 41-17. This game was closer than it ends up looking for a long time. It was 10-3 at halftime. The Ravens only had 83 yards on 7 first-half possessions, but benefited from a punt return that set them up at midfield for a field goal drive, and then a blocked punt that gave them the ball at the 24-yard line that turned into a touchdown. But in the second half, they scored on 4 straight possessions. They also had a defensive touchdown in there, and then they knelt the game to end their 5th possession. And so they dominated Cleveland down the stretch. It was a rough game for Derrick Henry, who only had 23 yards on 11 carries, and he fumbled again. So he's fumbled twice in 2 weeks. And I have nothing to say about Cleveland. They're one of the least interesting teams in the NFL right now. So in the sake of keeping it short, I got nothing on Cleveland.
Wow, I totally missed this over the weekend that Judkins was the leading carrier there. He had 10 carries for 61 yards. Good for the Browns to get another, criminal out there on the field. But Cleveland, I have nothing to say about Baltimore. They are who we thought they were. I mean, that's a full-on Super Bowl contending team, Super Bowl or bust for the Ravens, as it is every year. There is no reason for the Browns to be playing Joe Flacco. It's a joke that they traded Pickett instead of Flacco. Now, I'm not telling you Kenny Pickett was going to be the long-term answer in Cleveland, but what I will tell you is there's at least some upside. Maybe you find something with Pickett that you can trade him for something. No, there is no upside to playing Joe Flacco. No one's trading for Joe Flacco. So, it's a joke that Joe Flacco is still being trotted out there. Gabriel played at the end of the game. He should start next week. And it should be Shador. That's another conversation. But Gabriel can start next week. He can suck, and then they can get to Shador eventually. They need to play both Gabriel and Shador to see if they have anything with them.
Yeah, that's the only thing for them this season. Their season was over before it started. You might as well evaluate the quarterbacks that you spent 2 draft picks on.
Oh, Isaiah Bond got out there as well. So multiple criminals that Cleveland got on the payroll as soon as possible.
There you go. All right, Jacksonville at Cincinnati. Jacksonville loses this one 27-31. The big news from this game is the injury to Joe Burrow. It's going to require surgery and cause him to miss 3 months, and so the Bengals season is over. The Bengals just can't catch a break. I guess they did win the game, so there's that. They started 2-0, but their quarterback's gone. Jake Browning threw 3 interceptions in this game, but he did go 9 of 13 for 65 yards, converted 2 fourth downs on the final drive to win the game. Travis Hunter was a target on the final drive. He commits a penalty that extended the drive. He gives up a big reception to Jamar Chase. The Jags definitely haven't gotten what they wanted out of him yet. He's only got 55 receiving yards through 2 games. He's being targeted on defense. And so that's a pick that the early returns on don't look great. We're going to get to some more of those later. I will say the Jags offense did look good early. Granted, it's against the Bengals defense, which I can say with certainty is terrible. But they scored on 5 of their first 7 drives. But the Jags are going to jag. They dropped passes that would have been touchdowns. There's interceptions, of course, because it's Trevor Lawrence. There's Trevor Lawrence blowing off his coach during the game. So things look real bad in Jacksonville. I saw somebody said on Twitter that people were wrong. They were right about Trevor Lawrence being generational. They just used the wrong verbiage. He's generationally mid, and maybe that's just what he is.
Yeah, so it's first of all, we'll get to Jacksonville. I think it's the more interesting part of the conversation. Cincinnati with Burrow out. So let's say he misses 12 games. That would put us at week 14. Can Cincinnati go 5-7 without Joe Burrow?
No.
They're 2-0 right now. It's the only reason I ask if they're. I have this weird feeling.
They struggled to go 5-7 with Joe Burrow last year, and he had one of the best statistical seasons we've had in a long time. That defense is just so bad.
So the one thing I will say with Al Golden, who, by the way, we're not here to talk about college football, but can I just write a love letter to Al Golden? Please come back to Notre Dame. Please come back to South Bend. What are you doing in the NFL? The Bengals stink. You can just leave in the middle of the season and come be our defensive coordinator again. Their season's over anyways. But having said that, Al Golden, he's a genius, and he hasn't been able to fix this Bengals defense. That's because it's a bad defense. I will say they were able to force 2 turnovers in this game, and that is something that's very Al Golden. He will take chances to get those turnovers, especially when he knows he doesn't have a great defense. So I will say I think Cincy's defense will be opportunistic, but it will still be giving up 24 to 27 plus points per game. I do think they'll be a little bit more competitive than last year. But yeah, you're probably right. I think they probably go 4-8, and we're sitting here with the Bengals at 6-8. at week 14. It's like, should he come back? If they win all three, maybe he can get it. Like, I kind of think that's the conversation we'll be having around that time. But anyway, on to the other team that actually could matter the rest of the way in Jacksonville, especially because of that division. Have you seen some of the Brian Thomas Jr. stuff out there?
I've seen a little bit, yeah.
Well, first of all, he had 4 catches on 12 targets in this game. He was 8 of Trevor's 18 incompletions in this game. I believe both of the picks were targeting Brian Thomas Jr., one being like he alligator armed it and it went to Tom and it went to the defense. And then another on 4th down, they called a play for Thomas where he like just dropped it and very clearly heard footsteps across the, I don't know about across the middle, but towards the middle of the field, and dropped it right at the first down marker. That changed the game, allowed Cincy to go right back down the field. Liam Cohen did not necessarily give Brian Thomas a resounding vote of confidence on the effort after the post game. And then the next day said, oh, well, actually, he had a wrist injury this week. And that was part of what was slowing him down out there. We should have put it on the injury report. So, like, absolute mess of a situation. There's also, now that he had that game, I guess there's a lot of chatter that Brian Thomas Jr. has basically not given a crap the entire offseason in training camp and in practice. So, interesting thing to watch down the stretch with what people, I mean, he was drafted in the top 15 in fantasy leagues this year. He was expected to be one of the very best wide receivers in the league. Another interesting thing with him, 4 of his 5 best games as a pro have come with Mac Jones as his quarterback. So
that's kind of crazy.
I think there's some issues with Trevor and Brian's communication down there in Jacksonville.
Yeah, something definitely to watch for sure. I was very high on him coming into this year, and so far it has not looked very good.
One other thing I will say, Liam Cohen really has gotten the run game going there. ETN, another 5.1 yards per carry day. Tootin had a nice day, 8 carries for 42 yards. Liam Cohen, if anything, is a great run designer. We saw it with Bucky and Rashad last year, and we're seeing it again with Jacksonville. I'm still bullish that Jacksonville wins 8 or 9 games and is kind of competing on that playoff fringe this year, but really, really tough loss for them. One of the toughest losses of Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
right.
Timeout. We'll be quicker on other games. I think that was actually maybe my most interesting game on the board. Trevor Lawrence. Can you do me a favor, Shane? And while we're talking about this, pull up Trevor Lawrence's Football Reference page so you have it out there while I'm talking. There was a 20. We've talked about this at times, but I typed it out.
You talking about his Pro Football Reference?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Pro Football Reference. 20-game stretch from mid-2022 to mid-2023. Jaguars went 15-5. In that stretch, Trevor Lawrence had 5,019 yards, 27 touchdowns, 9 picks, 432 rushing yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns. Now, win-loss record is not everything. The Jags were 15-5 in that stretch. If you take that stretch out of Trevor Lawrence's career, he is 8-33. That's pretty stunning. I mean, he was an elite quarterback in that 20-game stretch. There's no way you can argue it. 15-5, 5,000 plus yards. Great. Yeah, I think he had a 70% completion percentage in that 20-game stretch as well. We were elevating him in that 2022 into 2023 offseason as the next guy. And then he came out and lit it on fire the first half of that year. Since then and before that, he's been one of the worst quarterbacks we've ever seen. Not the worst quarterback in football, one of the worst we've ever seen. But that 20-game stretch, it's hard for me to throw away. But the farther we get away from it, the more I think we're never going to see it again.
In his last 25 games, he is 5-20. He has thrown 22 touchdowns to 23 interceptions, and he's fumbled 14 times.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's really bad.
The one pick he threw in this game was...
Yeah. He threw 2 picks in this game.
The one wasn't really his fault, but the one was astonishingly bad.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think Brian... So one of them went off of... I think it went off of Brian Thomas Jr.'s hands, right?
Yeah.
The other one... It was like Brian Thomas kind of quit on the route, but also you were throwing him into a hospital bed.
Yeah.
So maybe don't try to get your receiver killed. He's literally going to get cut in half if he keeps running. So, I mean, yeah, if you're the wide receiver coach, you're telling your guy, you can't hang your quarterback out to dry. But if you're the quarterback coach, it's like, man, don't hang your receiver out to dry either.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I see Yako's comment on watching Chris Olave's career. I don't mind wide receivers not going all out to catch hospital balls. By the way, Chris Olave had like a dark quote this week about like how basically he expects to like get another concussion this year. But I agree with the sentiment, but like, man, there was a stunning lack of effort from Thomas in this game. And we're not talking about on every play, but on fourth down with the game on the line, like I kind of want my receiver to have the ability to go across the middle.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the Giants at the Cowboys. 40-37, the Cowboys win in overtime. And this game was crazy because it was 17-16 at the start of the fourth quarter. And then 41 combined points were scored in the fourth quarter. Hilariously, the final 9 possessions of regulation ended in points, but it took 5 overtime possessions for somebody to score. Russell Wilson threw for a career-high 450 yards. Dak threw for 361. Nobody knew how to play defense. This is crazy. There were a combined 984 yards of offense in this game, but more astonishingly, there were a combined 266 penalty yards in this game. It was ridiculous. I'm not sure if you call this confidence or malpractice, but the Cowboys had the ball at the 49-yard line with 9 seconds and 2 timeouts left. And they opted for a 3-yard run and a timeout to set up a 64-yard field goal to tie it, instead of letting Dak try to push the ball downfield to get a little closer. And so, I mean, I guess since it worked, it's confidence, but man, we're having a different conversation if you played for a 64-yard field goal and Brandon Aubrey missed it. But man, just absolute lack of defense in this game.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say. Russ was unbelievable all of a sudden. And then, yeah, he threw an unbelievable interception in overtime. Dallas, the offense looked great. Javonte Williams, again, the running game looked good again here for Dallas, which was shocking. But my take on the game, and this is not a take on the game. Well, both teams stink. I don't have much to say about the game. I think both these teams stink. I walked out being like, both these teams are 5 or less win teams. Whatever positive feelings I gained about their offense, I just made much more negative feelings on the defense, to be honest. But my take is that Brandon Aubrey played soccer at 4 years for Notre Dame, and nobody at Notre Dame realized that guy could kick footballs. And it's unbelievable. How? And Notre Dame, their account, like, celebrates when Brandon Aubrey does stuff now. He played soccer for you, brother. He did not play on the football team. We cannot claim this guy who we couldn't even find in South Bend. He was under our noses. He's the best kicker of all time. And we had no idea. We just, we'll keep having Justin Yoon go out there, or whoever we had at the time. Unbelievable stuff. He's the best kicker I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, best kicker in the NFL right now. And honestly, I think Jake Elliott's the second best kicker in the NFL. Two best kickers in the NFL in the same division.
I struggle. Elliott had such a tough year last year that I think he has to have like another great year to get back up there. He looks great. He looks incredible.
To me, they said after the season it was an injury, and given the fact he was so good before that, and he's already hit multiple 50-yarders this year, just makes me go, yep, I think it was just totally an injury thing. But
you're probably right. I will say I think Aubrey right now is better than the rest of the kickers to a higher degree than like Tucker was. Maybe it's just that he's such a long distance guy, where Tucker was too, but like I think Aubrey can make a 75-yarder. I really do.
Yeah. I guess Cameron Dicker's got to be up there. He's technically
probably
the most
second.
accurate kicker, but yeah.
He's awesome. Dicker's so good. It's unbelievable that we had maybe like the second and third best kicker, maybe like the top 2 kickers at the time. When
Dicker's a kicker
on the team, yeah.
Yeah. No kidding. All right, let's roll on to Detroit. Detroit blasts Chicago 52-21, and perhaps the obituaries of the Lions came a little too early. Perhaps the Bears are just that bad. Don't know for sure, but the Lions dropped 52 on them in a blowout, and the run game was working again, 177 yards on 30 carries. The pass game was awesome. Goff threw for 334 and 5 touchdowns. Jamison Williams had the most Jamison Williams stat line of all time. 2 catches for 108 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown caught 3 touchdowns. It started out okay for the Bears with a 79-yard touchdown drive to start the game, but Caleb Williams was just too inconsistent, which has been the story of his career so far. And I can't take all the film guys on Twitter that are like, the Caleb Williams film actually wasn't that bad. Coincidentally, it's all the people that really liked him in the draft. It's like, man, we can just admit that he's been disappointing so far. And I hope he turns it around, and I hope Ben Johnson can work it out. But I hate all the revisionist crap that goes on with QB stuff. The Lions, though, their secondary was awesome in this game. Brian Branch had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, and 6 total tackles. Kirby Joseph had an interception. Aiden Hutchinson chipped in 7 pressures and a sack. So good day for the Lions.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I was way wrong on this game. I thought Dan Campbell was gonna. I don't know. I thought Ben Johnson was gonna show up to this game and have Chicago prepared and know what Detroit likes to do. And I just think that this Bears team is so far away from competing. Caleb has serious problems. Ben Johnson has not gotten the offense to where I expected it to get to at this point. Yeah, it's ugly for Chicago. I don't really have anything constructive to say, honestly, or I don't know how you fix it or what you do. They play the Cowboys this week in Chicago. You better win that game, or else you're in some trouble, and it starts to get ugly soon. What I will say is, what comes around goes around for the Detroit Lions. I think this was pretty scummy stuff by Dan Campbell to do to someone who literally for 2 extra years stayed with you to help you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And you repay him for the extra 2 years that he stayed as a coach. Nobody does that. Nobody across football is like, oh, I'll just take another year as a coordinator so I can get a head coaching job I like, and so I can stay and help the team that I'm with for years. So I know everybody's take on this is like, ha, let's laugh at Ben Johnson. I think Dan Campbell's a scumbag. I think this is scummy stuff to run it up on a former coach who stuck around with you, and you failed, and your defense failed last year, and that's why you lost in the playoffs 2 straight years now. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in that thought, but when I was watching Detroit go for it on 4th in the 4th quarter of this game, I was dumbfounded. And then they're doing celebrations, making fun of Ben Johnson on the field. I care less about that. That's the players. But from Ben Johnson, and I understand the coordinators probably want to prove something. Kelvin Shepard at defense, and I think it's John Morton on the offensive side. I'm sure they've heard it all off season about how the coordinators were going to rain it down, and they were what was keeping them going, all that stuff. I get it. I usually don't care about teams running up the score. I'm not someone who cares about sportsmanship. And I get this comment. It's kind of what I was just saying about how I'm sure they heard it all year. But if you're Dan Campbell, I thought this was low.
Yeah, the bigger thing I had an issue with was Detroit fans chanting about Ben Johnson before, during the game, whatever. That's just ridiculous.
Why do you have a negative feeling about Ben Johnson as a Detroit fan? You've had the best seasons of your life because, in part, of Ben Johnson.
Yeah, and I guess he went to a in-division team, but still, he gave you extra years. So I tried to throw myself into that place. What if Kellen Moore left the Eagles to go be the head coach of Dallas? And I honestly, I just don't think I'd care.
We thought it was going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like I would. I feel like I would do the thing that NBA fans do all the time. You give the standing ovation for the guy when he comes on the court, and then you boo him once the game starts. It's fair game. And I'm fine with that, but I don't know. That just seemed weird to me. But
yeah, and this also comes from the same fan base that brutalized Matt Stafford's family. And it's oh yeah, let's hate Matt Stafford, who put his heart and soul on the line for that team when they had nothing for, 10 years. And we've talked about this before. I think underrated worst fan base, one of the worst fan bases in sport is the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Stafford didn't hold out. They traded him. He didn't go ask for a trade. And even if he had, that would have been well within his right after how long he'd been there.
I think he may have asked for a trade, but it wasn't it was mutual. It was not well, I'm demanding a trade, you better trade me. It was a good situation. And we've dealt with them on Twitter before with their commentary on our opinions on their draft picks in the past. And I think Detroit fans are sneaky, some of the most annoying in the NFL.
Yeah. So if you're a Detroit fan listening to this, listen to our show.
I weirdly have a good amount of Detroit followers. I don't know why.
Yeah. As people who cover the Eagles, we're well acquainted with entire fan bases being thrown in the garbage when it's not deserved.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
not hating on you individually as a fan if you're a Lions fan, but you got to admit that what was being chanted about Ben Johnson before the game, that was garbage, and I would call it out if the Eagles were doing that as well.
Totally agree. We call out Eagles fans all the time.
Yeah. So, all right, let's keep rolling. Let's go to New England at Miami. New England wins 33-27. New England took the lead going into the fourth quarter, then gave up a punt return touchdown to lose the lead before returning the ensuing kickoff to take the lead back, which was wild. And then they clung to that lead and walked away with a win. Tua threw an interception on his first pass of the day. It was negated by penalty. And the offense did get in rhythm after that, but Tua threw a pick in the fourth quarter that really deflated the offense, and it kind of threw everything off. New England ends up winning the game. Drake May was 19-23 for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. He added 31 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. This was a 97th percentile EPA per dropback performance from Drake May and a 95th percentile EPA per scramble performance. I mean, it's the Dolphins, so we can take that with a grain of salt. But also, it's the Patriots, and so him doing that against anybody is impressive. However, wide receivers are a massive issue still for New England. The only player with more than 40 receiving yards in this game for the Patriots was a running back. Patriots receivers combined for 64 receiving yards. And so that's a major issue. And when that's what you're dealing with, I don't care if you're playing a college team, 97th percentile EPA per dropback is pretty darn impressive from the second-year guy. So I'll take that. Last thing I'll mention, Devon Achane is so good. He only had 30 rushing yards, but he had 92 receiving yards and a touchdown. He forced 8 missed tackles, while the rest of the Dolphins' offense only forced 4 combined. So Devon Achane, good. Pretty much everything else in Miami, bad.
Yeah, and Achane didn't even do it on the ground. He did it through the air. The Patriots came into this game clearly just wanting to take away the run and kind of let Tua make mistakes because he will make mistakes. So even though Tua, 26 for 32, he throws the pick. But I walked out of this game. I bet on the Patriots in this game, hit my bet, had an amazing gambling week this week. So this was probably the game I was maybe like most locked in on at that time slot. And I walked out thinking that the Patriots were much worse than I thought walking in. And that's a crazy way to feel about it. Maybe Drake May's best game as a pro and you put up 33 points, but that Miami secondary is so bad. Every time Drake May was completing a pass, I felt like everything was just like wide open. Like guys were just so open. I didn't really feel it. I watched a lot of the game and I wasn't like, oh my God, what a play by Drake May at any point, really.
Miami secondary is so bad, the Eagles passing offense might look good.
Oh, come on. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. But the Dolphins secondary is the worst I can ever remember a team coming into week 1 with. Like we in the Eagles times we've seen bad secondaries in week 15. Like when we get to the end of the year and we're pulling guys off the street and things like that, like we've seen bad secondaries. We've seen burnt toast, and a lot of teams have that are in.
Ronald Darby coming off his 6th injury of the year.
Trying to think who's the guy we pulled off we literally pulled a guy off the street and played him at corner like really quickly. I can't remember.
I've tried to block that from memory.
Thomas or Taylor is the last, something like that is the last name I thought.
Yeah.
But just we've had bad late seasons. But there's no excuse for Miami. There's not some injuries causing this. Like this was what they came into the year with. So, and not to mention the O-line, which was horrible, which is why you have, 11 carries for 30 yards from one of the best running backs in the sport. But yeah, I'm not going to freak out about this Patriots game with Drake May being, he took advantage of a really bad defense. And then the Dolphins, we have comments. Mike McDaniel's getting fired after Thursday. It's so evident. They have a Thursday night game and then they don't play until the next Monday. So much time for Miami to fire McDaniel. It's not his fault.
What week is that?
This week.
So you think he's gone this week?
Yeah, I think they're going to lose in spectacular fashion on Thursday night to Buffalo. So, I think he'll be gone by. I
guess we'll see how that plays out. Let's keep rolling to a pairing that we have waited to see for a long time. We finally got to see Kyle Shanahan and Mac Jones work together, and it started out really bad. Mac Jones missed his first 4 passes. After that, he had a pretty good game, though. He throws for 279 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did fumble twice. He lost one of them. He did hold the ball too long. honestly, Mac Jones is like a high-level backup at this point in his career. Like, you don't want to start him, but if Mac Jones is your backup, you feel really good if you have to go to him for 4 games in a year. And he gets the win here, 26-21 over the Saints. Spencer Rattler did Spencer Rattler things, lacks consistency, misses some easy throws, makes some ridiculous plays, but through 2 games, the Saints have been competitive in both games. And they might have been able to win this one if not for an untimely Alvin Kamara fumble in the third quarter. But my favorite note from this game is, hilariously, after the Jake Moody struggles of week 1 and getting cut, and they sign Eddie Pinheiro to be their kicker, Eddie Pinheiro comes on and misses his first extra point attempt. He did, however, make 2 others, and he made 2 40-plus yard field goals, and so maybe they've got their kicking game in order, but I can't imagine what's going through Shanahan's head when he brings in a new kicker who misses the first extra point of the game.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. He must absolutely despise kickers at this point. This was probably one that I was paying one of the least attention to on the whole slate. I agree with you on Mac Jones, though, and I also think there's some extra swagger from Kyle Shanahan in this game. I'm kicking myself for not betting San Fran in this game. I think I saw like the first or second drive from San Fran, and they went right down the field, and it was so well designed. Everything was so open. This was absolutely Shanahan being like, see, I wasn't an idiot. We should have taken Mac Jones, and things would have been fine. Like, that's absolutely what he's trying to do and trying to prove to people that he was right to love Mac.
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling to the New York Jets against the Buffalo Bills.
Do we have to?
Just real briefly, the Bills killed them 30-10. And they dominated the Jets on the ground, rushed for 224 yards and 3 touchdowns. Josh Allen only threw for 148, but it didn't matter. This game was over, and it was never close. James Cook rushed for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the Jets' offense just stunk. Breece Hall, 29 yards rushing. Justin Fields was 3 of 11 passing for 27 yards with a 1.1 QBR. He did leave the game with injury, but it wasn't until the fourth quarter. So he had 27 yards passing in the fourth quarter. He exited the game with a completion percentage over expectation of negative 41.5%, which is the lowest in the NFL since the stat started being tracked in 2016. Tyrod Taylor came in and led a scoring drive. I mean, it's garbage time, so who cares? But complete disaster for the Jets against Buffalo.
They're very clearly a team that cannot handle any sort of like negative game script where they have to just throw. And this was the game. Like, the Justin Fields haters think that like this is every Fields game. Like, I feel like, but this was as bad as a quarterback can look. And this is why Fields has 1 or 2 of these a year. And people, not usually this bad, but people watch this and then it makes them think he can't ever be a starting quarterback again. I think he's one of the 32 best quarterbacks in football. I think he's one of the 25th best quarterbacks. And one of the 25 best quarterbacks in football. But I understand when you watch games like this, why it's hard to want to turn your season over to a guy like this, who, when you get down by more than 10 points, you're absolutely done.
Yeah, I don't know if I can't confirm. I haven't confirmed this is true, but he said Fields was 6th in passing yards by quarterbacks in the AFC East in week 2.
Tyrod had more than him. I'm trying to think about the Patriots and Dolphins. I don't think the Dolphins backup got in.
I think he did, actually.
Oh, did he? Did Zach Wilson throw? No, he didn't. Neither did the Patriots. Did Buffalo have a second quarterback get in? Yeah, Trubisky. Duh. That's what it is.
Oh,
Trubisky,
okay.
Yeah.
It must have been week 1 that the Dolphins backup got in. But
yeah, Wilson did get in week 1.
So, all right, let's keep rolling. Seattle at Pittsburgh. Seattle wins 31-17. This was a wild back and forth game that had its momentum ultimately swung on one of the strangest plays you'll ever see. So, rookie running back Caleb Johnson's back to receive a kickoff after the Seahawks take a 17-14 lead. 12 minutes left. And the ball hits in the landing area and bounces over his head to the end zone. And he just jogged off the field, and the Seahawks recovered it for a touchdown. It was a bizarre moment. I don't know if he thought it was going out of the back of the end zone. He just thought he didn't need to field it in the end zone. Just egregious error that you can't ever make. And it swung the game. It was a good Kenneth Walker day. He rushed for 105 yards and a touchdown on 13 carries. Also had a 13-yard reception. Sam Darnold was picked off 2 times by the Steelers' beat-up secondary, but he did ultimately throw for 295 yards and 2 touchdowns. But here's my real gripe. Down 2 scorers with 1 minute and 6 seconds left in this game. The Steelers called timeouts to get the ball back and then put in their backup quarterback and called a run play. And that shouldn't annoy me as much as it does, but I was watching the game with a friend that's a Seahawks fan, and I was ready to flip over to Giants-Cowboys, and they wouldn't just let the game end, and so it really annoyed me. So shame on you, Pittsburgh, for wasting everybody's time.
Yeah, I'm glass half full, glass half empty on this game. If I want to go glass half full, I'd say the Seattle offense finally looked like what it would need to look to carry a really good defense. Or not carry it, to help a really good defense into being a good football team. Darnold, near 300 yards. Kenneth Walker, 8 yards to carry. JSN had another big day. Cooper Kupp finally showed up. Not finally, I guess it's week 2, but it didn't really do anything in week 1 and showed up in week 2. The defense did what we expected, held a team to under 20 points again for Seattle's defense. But then again, on the glass half full side of things, I think the Steelers' defense is rotten to the core right now. I think they have some serious problems on that side of the ball, to the point where I'm not sure I'm supposed to take 31 points and all these yards from Seattle all that seriously if I think it's a real kind of offensive performance. And then also, like you mentioned, this game's completely different if the weirdest play I've ever seen watching the NFL. It doesn't happen. So it's hard for me to even have any real full-on takes on the game. I hope this is a sign of things to come for the Seattle offense. I think this is what to expect from the Seattle defense. Mm-hmm. And
they did this without Devon Witherspoon, by the way.
Yes, yeah. And I said this on my radio show
and Nicky Manwari.
Yeah, it's true. Where Rodgers went 9 for 9 on screens in week 1. And Rodgers did not get blitzed at all in week 1. I thought Mike McDonald did a great job of getting pressure to Rodgers and making him uncomfortable. He would just give up on plays, and also did a great job at stopping the screen game and stopping the intermediate game and stopping everything up short, making Rodgers take shots down the field. So he had a couple of them, not enough of them. Still got sacked 3 times in that game, and that was with him throwing the ball away as quick as he could when pressure came. So, yeah, I think Rodgers has serious problems with pressure. I think the Pittsburgh defense has serious problems. And then on the Seattle side of things, I just hope this is a sign of things to come for the offense and not a blip.
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling into Tennessee, who loses to the Rams 33-19. The Titans led this game 13-10 at halftime. Stafford threw an interception near the end of the first half that took points off the board for the Rams, but they scored on 4 or 5 possessions in the second half, and Stafford was nearly flawless after halftime. Cam Ward goes 19 of 33 for 175 yards and a touchdown. He took 5 sacks and lost a fumble. He did have a couple nice passes to Elik Iomanor, including a crossbody throw for a touchdown that only had a 14.2% completion probability per Next Gen Stats. But he was only 9 for 16 for 52 yards with 3 sacks in the second half. And so I think Ward has flashed at times, but it is so tough to eval a quarterback in such a bad situation, which you referenced last week. I think we're going to get to the end of this year and still not really know what Cam Ward is. Also for the Rams, Ahkello Witherspoon suffered a broken clavicle in this game, so he's going to miss some time. What were your takeaways on this one?
Yeah, it's funny because like the first 3 quarters you're watching and you're like, why the heck are the Rams not pulling away? And in the fourth quarter, you're like, oh, this is the Rams. Like, these are the Rams that I thought were going to be the third best team in the NFC, who I think if you're making the list probably still have to be the third best team in the NFC right now. But took them a while to pull away, but when they did, they looked like the Rams were expecting. Yeah, Cam Ward, I said what I had to say on it last week. There's going to be, flashes, but I'm not even really willing to evaluate anything really on this season unless it's good. If it's good, then that's amazing. And he can build on that because the situation is never going to be worse than it is right now.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, also, Puka Nacua is going to win Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. It sure looks like it.
Your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. And this one is specifically for new customers who can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus over $200 off of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PINPULL. That's code PINPULL to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, over $200 off of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois. Void in Ontario. Bonus bet expires 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto-renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Stuck in a lo-fi loop again? Hit shuffle and refresh the everyday with Mentos Gum. Pop a piece and turn that sleepy soundscape into a dance floor. Freshen up your moves with spearmint. Find freedom with fresh mint. Get juicy with red fruit lime and tropical. Or choose a different way to refresh the everyday with your favorite. Mentos Gum. Yes to fresh.
At Starbucks, we've more than doubled parental leave for full and part-time baristas, giving them up to 18 weeks of paid time off, so they can be there for early bedtimes, late nights, first laughs, and spend more time with the best company they know. At Starbucks, benefits like parental leave are just the start. Learn more about Starbucks industry-leading benefits at starbucks.com/partners.
Jif peanut butter. It's that jiffing good, it doesn't really need advertising. So instead, enjoy the calming sounds of the ocean. Jif. Ooh, it's that jiffing good. Get your Jif at jif.com.
Let's keep rolling into the afternoon slate now. Carolina at Arizona. Arizona wins 27-22. The Cardinals really messed up in this one, to be honest. They were up 27-3. They allow a touchdown drive, throw an interception, allow another touchdown drive, go 3 and out, allow another touchdown drive, and then they give up an onside kick. And so suddenly that 27-3 lead has turned into a 27-22 lead, and the Panthers had a chance to win this game. Now they do fall short, turning it over on downs, but this was almost some Ravens level ineptitude, losing from like a 99+% win probability. Bryce Young was 35 of 55 for 328 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he also throws a pick, he loses a fumble, and both of those turnovers came in the first quarter on the Panthers' first 2 drives of the game, which got him in a double-digit hole to start with. So the Bryce Young roller coaster continues. I still don't think the Cardinals are very good. But like you said last week, they're now sitting at 2-0.
I'm trying to find this right now. I'm trying to look up some of the worst 2-0 teams of all time. Like, are there 2-0 teams that finished with 4 wins? Like, I'm trying to find it. I can't. Oh, the 2012 Eagles. We went 2-12 after starting 2-0. Apparently, that's apparently the worst. I think is what I'm seeing on Reddit here. But I think the Cardinals have an argument to be one of the worst 2-0 teams I've ever seen. It is. How could you feel worse about a 2-0 team than you feel after the Cardinals having the Saints had the ball in the red zone with a chance to score and tie the game, if not go for 2 and win the game at the end of the game against what we think is the worst team in the league in New Orleans, maybe. And then you have Carolina, who's one of the 5 worst teams in the league, and you give up a 24-point lead to the point where they have a chance to go and win the game. So I think this team absolutely stinks. I think they're unserious, and I think they're winning under. If you gave me like a win total, I'm telling you, I would still bet under like 6.5. I do not think this team's winning 7 games.
All right. Yeah, I do not believe in this team at all, but we'll see. We'll see where they end up. Let's go down to Indianapolis and talk about Indiana Jones riding again. So, Giants fans are fortunate that Russ did what he did this week, or they would have to be sitting there thinking, man, Saquon Barkley last year, Daniel Jones this year. Now, last week was against a really bad team in Miami, but this week was against what we think is a good defense. Daniel Jones throws for 316 yards and a touchdown. He rushes for another. Jonathan Taylor rushes for 165 yards. So I will say the Colts offenses looked good, and I didn't expect that. The Broncos offense also looked good. Bo Nix threw for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he had an interception that came in field goal range in the fourth quarter. And then the Broncos had a 5-point lead, and a field goal would have pushed it to 8 if he doesn't throw that interception. He throws the interception. Indy kicks a field goal to cut the lead to 2. Then Denver misses a field goal, and Indy hits a field goal to win by 1. So a lot of wild things going on at the end of this game, but Denver kind of blows this game, and Indianapolis is sitting here at 2-0 as well.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of takes on this. So I wasn't locked in on this. I had the Cardinals-Panthers game on the other screen that I was watching. Red Zone was ahead of the Eagles game, so I was like, can't have Red Zone on. Let me just put on one of these other 2 games and on a stream and figure it out. Picked the wrong one, apparently. I should have been watching Colts Broncos. But I was so locked in on the Eagles that I didn't really care about the other one. What I will say is, as someone who did not watch the game, the Broncos, this defense that everybody told me was immune to regression, because I put out that stat that people don't like. 20% of top 5 defenses repeat as a top 10 defense, let alone a top 5 defense the next year. And I forget if it's the last 15 or 25 years that stat is the case, if it's since 2010 or since 2000. But everybody, when I would repeat that stat as the main reason why the Denver Broncos were born for regression here, and not to mention all the quarterbacks that they played last year, they would tell me about all the pieces that the Broncos added and how they stayed ahead of that, and they're going to be even better defensively than they were last year. My response to that was to list them all the quarterbacks that they have to play. And that list still is mighty daunting, I would say. They have a good amount of quarterbacks still left on that schedule that I would say are going to be really tough for any defense to deal with. That being, they play Mahomes twice, they play Herbert twice, they play Geno twice, they play Burrow, they play Jalen, they play Dak, they play Stroud, they play Jaden, they play Jordan Love. There's a couple other games like Trevor and a couple other names who, they might not be that good, but they might end up being good by the end of the year. What I will say, Daniel Jones wasn't on that list. And when I was telling people that the Broncos defense would struggle this year and would regress to the mean, I did not think they'd get diced up by dimes and give up 29 points to the Indianapolis Colts. So for all those people out there who tried to tell me how funny I was or how wrong I was to predict a regression for the Denver defense, let's see how they do against the actual good quarterbacks, because you all celebrated a week 1 against Cam Ward and the Titans, but then you got diced up by dimes.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the Sunday night game. And Atlanta beats Minnesota pretty handily, 22-6, and their defense showed up in a big way. Jalen Walker has a sack. James Pierce Jr. had 3 pressures and a half a sack. Billy Bowman Jr. has an interception. Xavier Watts has an interception, and those are all rookies. So great showing by the rookies. Atlanta pressures J.J. McCarthy on 53% of his dropbacks. They sack him 6 times, and McCarthy looked brutal in this game. Fumbled twice. Both were recovered by Minnesota, but he still put it on the ground. He throws 2 picks. He ends 11-21 passing for 158 yards. But this Atlanta defense might be for real, which is surprising because they just haven't been able to rush the passer over the last several years. So maybe the double dip works out on pass rushers in the first round. The last thing I'll mention on this game, this is kind of crazy, but Justin Jefferson recorded his 500th career catch in this game, which ties Larry Fitzgerald as the youngest player to do it in NFL history at 26 years and 90 days. Like, how does that happen on the exact same day? that it happened for Larry Fitzgerald. That's kind of wild. So ties that record, youngest guy to get to 500 career catches.
My take on this game, and I could talk about the Falcons' defense. Well, first of all, Justin Jefferson, you could say that stat. Did you see his body language and facial language in this game about the offensive player of the week, J.J. McCarthy, and how he felt about that Vikings offense? I don't know if Justin Jefferson's long for Minnesota based on how he was acting there on the sideline.
Or J.J. McCarthy might not be long for Minnesota.
Might not be long for the NFL. But, yeah.
If Kevin O'Connell can't make you work, then you just need to go to the CFL probably.
We were both out on JJ, and when he landed with Minnesota, we both kind of put our hands up and said, well, we're probably going to be wrong here because Minnesota's probably going to figure out a way to make it work because that's what
And
Kevin
we could
O'Connell
still
does.
be. It's just 2 games, and he was under pressure over half of his dropbacks. And so you know what that can do to young guys especially, but we know the design of the offense is good. And so you're not going to land in much better situations than the head coach and the wide receivers that you have in Minnesota.
Maybe the best play caller and the best wide receiver in the sport. So, yeah, if you can't look good in that setting, I understand there's some O-line injuries, but yeah, I'd be worried if I was a Vikings fan about J.J. McCarthy, and I would have been worried when they drafted him. On the other side of things, I think the Falcons went ahead and fixed their defense in one draft. Not only did they get James Pearson, they went and got Jalen Walker. We can debate whether we like the trade or not. It was insane, to be honest, but it works. It worked. It looked like early. They went out and they got a guy who I had as a first-round grade in the 3rd round in Xavier Watts, who put up one of the best PFF grades in week 1 as a starter in the 3rd round in week 1 at the safety position. And then this week he comes out and gets a pick to kind of close the game out. And last week he had 5 tackles and like 3 pass breakups, which I guess is like he was like the first safety to ever do that in week 1 or something. Like there was a crazy stat about what Xavier Watts has been able to do in week 1. And then in week 2, he comes along and gets his first pick. I think they went out and they got 3 studs. I think Pierce is a stud. I think Walker's a stud. I think Watts is a stud. You put 3 studs on any defense, I think it's going to dramatically change things, especially in the year 2 under Raheem Morris. So I think my biggest takeaway is Falcons defense is legitimate.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Monday Night Football. Tampa Bay at Houston. Tampa Bay wins 20-19, and this was the most Baker Mayfield performance of all Baker Mayfield performances. So he leads back-to-back touchdown drives to open the game, then 7 drives with no points, and then suddenly trailing with 2:10 left on the clock, he leads an 80-yard touchdown drive to win the game, including missing a wide-open Emeka Egbuka on a 3rd and 10 before shrugging off a sack to scramble for a first down on 4th and 10. Baker is the most clutch guy, and he digs himself some holes sometimes, I think, just so he can be clutch. It's crazy. On the first 2 drives and the final drive, he was 17-22 passing for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the 7 drives in between, he was 8 of 16 for 58 yards and took 4 sacks. Like, just wild. Houston egregiously mismanaged some things in this game. They got a 2nd and goal from the 1 in the 4th quarter, and they went shotgun run. Shotgun pass into a turnover on downs. They have no run game. Like, how are you not getting under center from the 1-yard line and handing it off? Or just do a quarterback sneak. Like, they have no run game. They can't protect C.J. Stroud. They sit at 0-2, and I don't know what their answers are, to be honest. Last thing I'll mention, Bucky Irving is amazing. That was another guy we both loved in the draft last year. 17 carries for 71 yards. He had 50 receiving yards on 6 receptions. So great game for Bucky Irving.
Yeah, Tampa is, they were one of my biggest bets of the year. Came through at the end for me. So shout out to Baker. And this kind of colors what I was saying. I was rooting for Tampa very hard last night. And if I was not, I was literally born, in my opinion, as a sports fan, to root for Jalen Hurts. I have the honor and privilege of rooting for Jalen Hurts as my team's quarterback. If it wasn't for Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield is the exact type of quarterback I would want to root for on my favorite team. When he got up and started jawing with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, after Chauncey probably said some out-of-pocket stuff because Baker rolled his ankle and then was laying on the ground, and Chauncey ran over to stand over top of him, and we know Chauncey well here. I'm sure he wasn't asking him how he was doing. And Baker popped right up and got right in his face. And it just shows everything I love about Baker. Like,
I saw somebody say that they need to fly Chauncey Gardner-Johnson out to Cincinnati and get him to talk trash to Joe Burrow so he can avoid surgery. Because like the way Baker grabbed his leg, it was like, oh my gosh, he might have blown his knee out. And then Chauncey stands over him talking crap, and he jumps up and gets in his face. Like he has the trash talk of healing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And he's just so clutch. Anytime he's in this situation, you think he's going to go do it. The whole time last night, I thought he was going to figure it out. By the way, I thought the Bulls in Tampa really mismanaged the clock here. It could have gotten ugly. It was 2nd and goal with 9 seconds, and if they had 2 timeouts, like, I get that they were trying to save the timeouts so they could run or leave the options open if they wanted to, and they got in on a run. But they could have called the second timeout with like 20 seconds left and had 3, like, are the Texans going to go down the field in like 15 seconds as opposed to 6 seconds? Like, I thought it was, they got really lucky they scored on 2nd down. Because if they didn't, and you're sitting there with 5 seconds left and 2 timeouts and you have 2 plays to run, like, you don't know if you're going to get that play off and get a 4th play. Like, I thought that they really, really put themselves in a tough spot. Didn't matter. Baker came through. And the Bucs came through.
I would have done that I would have given myself like 9 seconds maybe. But I do think at 6 seconds, you could call 2, which I think they were going to run the ball twice on 2nd and 3rd down. I think you can reasonably call 2 run plays and get 2 timeouts in 5 seconds and still leave a second on the clock. But yeah, I wouldn't have cut it quite that close. Also,
it was close.
I want to know I said this last night. They score and go up by 1 and they decide to go for 2 to get up 3. I thought they should have taken a knee instead of trying to get that 2-point conversion.
I completely agree. I was telling this to my friend. And then Baker got sacked and like threw it up in the air. I was like, if Houston would have intercepted that and returned it, it would have been the funniest ending to any NFL game of all time.
That would have been the most Will Levis performance of all Will Levis performances. But like, yeah, I mean, so you could just say run it, just call a run play. But I mean, weird stuff can still happen. So, but I wouldn't have a problem with you running it. But to call a pass play, I'm out. And then to try to throw out of a sack, oh my gosh, my heart skipped 2 beats. And you don't just kick the extra point either, because if that gets blocked, it's going all the way back. And so
that's
to
actually
me,
worst. That's the worst thing to do.
Yeah, I'm taking a knee, and I'm taking a knee because with 6 seconds left, I mean, the only way you lose the game is a kickoff return for a touchdown. A kickoff return to field goal range is going to take more than 6 seconds. So at that point, being up 1 or 3 is irrelevant. The only way you're losing is a kick return for a touchdown. And so, yeah, that was just a minor thing, but they should have taken a knee there.
Yeah, and then Baker, someone commented in the post game, he did say, yeah, I was out in the middle of the field, just, had some words with my good friend Chauncey. Yeah. He did say something like that, and it's like, I love Baker so much.
Yeah, Baker, yeah. I'm in a weird, so obviously Baker was an Oklahoma guy. Even if he wasn't, I feel like I would love him. But I'm watching that game, and I'm like, the Eagles have absolutely no answer in the last 5 years for Tampa Bay. So I need to not meet them in the playoffs, and yet I can't help but root for Baker in every game he plays, unless it's against the Eagles, of course. So I hope they are like the 2 seed, and they get knocked out before they come across the Eagles.
I agree.
I love Baker so much. They're a fun team to watch, and I want no part of them in the playoffs.
I agree.
So, okay, last game here, and we'll get out of here. Chargers at the Raiders. The NFL decided to start this game at like 10 o'clock or something stupid, and I'm not staying up till 1 in the morning to watch a game. But the Chargers win 20-9. The 2 things I'll mention is that through 2 games, Ashton Genty, the running back Mark told me to take in the first round of my fantasy draft, has 81 rushing yards. Thanks, Mark.
It's hurting me too.
Also, Geno Smith became the only quarterback since 2016 to attempt at least 10 passes of over 10 air yards without a completion. He was 0 of 12 with 3 picks when throwing over 10 yards downfield. That's all I got on this game.
Yeah, Geno's horrible in this game. Not much to say on it. I'm worried that both rookie running backs that I glazed really hard in the pre-draft process and then in the fantasy process might not be that good. Or at least situations might be so bad that offensive line-wise, running the ball-wise, that maybe neither guy gets going. I would say Omarion Hampton actually just looks bad. He does not look quick. He does not look like the guy I remember in college. And then on the other side with Genty, I think Genty's is mostly I feel like he's getting hit so quickly. I heard a stat after week 1 that his he had like the craziest or the lowest like yards before contact numbers out there in the league. So I think Genty will be fine, would be my take. And then on the other side, I'll say I'm worried sincerely about Amarian Hampton. Someone commented, so is AOC better than Geno? Geno put up like 400 yards in week 1. Like it's gonna be a rough game. He's not a great. He's like the 15th best quarterback. So like he's gonna have great games. He's gonna have bad games, but most of the time he's probably gonna throw for like 220 and go like 18 for 30 and be like pretty good. So
also Ben's mentioning here. Also think they really miss Brock Bowers.
Yeah. So he played and went out, right? I don't know what I can't remember exactly what time he went out in the game. But yeah,
he played. Let's see, did he play?
Yeah, I know he had.
Oh yeah, he played a lot of the game. 54 snaps out of 70. So
okay, so I think it was towards the end of the game. He was banged up going in, so that is something to bring up. He's such a huge part of their offense. But I'm not going to take away from this game and say that. Actually, you know what? My final takeaway from the game: Chargers defense looks legitimate. Last year, they were way better than their talent. Jesse Minter, really good defensive coordinator. It's year 2. Matt Money Smith, who's an NFL Network guy. He's the Chargers radio guy, and he's not. I listen to a podcast he goes on a lot. He's not someone who just like plays the Chargers. He was saying all offseason, he's like, people do not realize the Chargers are going to have a top 5 defense in the NFL because Jesse Minter is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, and they're so young, all this stuff. I think that Chargers defense is legit. We saw them do really well against Kansas City in week 1, and this is a really, really impressive performance. So if I'm having any real takeaway from the game, it's that.
All right. Well, that is going to about do it for this week. Again, a little more abbreviated because trying to squeeze this one in at a non-normal time, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, even though it's a strange time and a little condensed. But Mark, do you have any final thoughts you want to drop before you get out of here?
Yeah, I just saw this, so I'll use it as my final thought. The Chiefs apparently put out a tweet saying that our defense held the Eagles to their lowest offensive output since week 6 of the 2021 season.
Well, you know where Chris Jones got it from then.
You're 0-2. What an insane thing to tweet. Like, and it's with like a big graphic that says upon further review. What a weird tweet by the Chiefs. And I guess there's a link to an article, but weirdo organization for a group of people and fans and players and coaches that have won so much. They are sincerely such losers. It is them, and this hasn't been talked about at all, them like parading around with that fumble at the end of the game like it was a fumble was one of the weirdest shows I've ever seen at the end of a football game. Like that was so clearly in no world a fumble, and they all as like a team like tried to convince themselves that it was insane. Like that was. No one talked about it. No one's going to talk about it. That was insane.
Well, they are used to officials just making things up for them. So
I'm not that guy. I'm not the person who goes nuts about the Chiefs and the refs. But I will say that call against Jahad Campbell on the roughing the passer that extended the game was unfathomable.
It was, but I'll also say the third down before, I was shocked he didn't get flagged for one. So when that happened, yeah, I even tweeted it at the time. I was like, because he whacked Mahomes pretty good after the ball was out of his hand on a third down on the previous drive. And I was like, man, I can't believe they didn't flag that. So when they got him for the other one, I was like, that is 1000% not roughing the passer. But I guess it kind of evens out at this point. So
That's fair.
Yeah, and I just want to mention the tush push thing. That will be the game that gets the tush push banned, and it's clear the NFL has their talking points out. You got Adam Schefter talking about it, how this game was decided in March, and multiple big accounts saying and tweeting the exact same thing about it's a hard play to officiate. It's not. There's a neutral zone on every play. There's the potential for a false start every play. Just throw the flag. And it's like on the one, like the people talk about the neutral zone. It's like, yeah, they showed a screenshot where Landon Dickerson's in the neutral zone. It's like, yeah, and 2 defensive tackles are. So you throw the flag, offset the penalties, and run the play again. Like, make the players line up. It's not that hard of a play to officiate. But I'm tired of the talk. I'm ready for him to ban it, and let's just run a regular QB sneak, and it still won't matter. So
I agree.
Yeah. But, all right. Well, also, I just like this game was decided in March when the NFL decided that Patrick Mahomes would miss a wide open receiver and Harrison Butker would miss a 58-yard field goal and Andy Reid would run from the power I from his own 30-yard line and Travis Kelce would let it. Oh, wait. No. We're just talking about that one play, the tush push. So,
yeah. I'll say to the Eagles, and I know everybody hates the offensive design. I don't want to get into the whole thing. I think they understand and are playing to the advantage more than ever that they need 9 yards. They need 9 yards on any given set of downs, and they get to that end one, and they know that they're going to convert. And I think I've complained, especially 2023. I remember I complained on here about how it felt like the team didn't realize their superpower that they had, and they would be 3rd and 4, and they wouldn't even think to run the ball to set up a 4th and 2, 4th and 1. So yeah. And he said, I think what they'll do is ban QB sneak spirit. They cannot ban a QB sneak.
I think that's what they'll do. So somebody asked here, how do you even go about banning it without banning QB sneaks? I think eventually they will end up totally banning QB sneaks because
I totally disagree.
When
they can do that.
When they ban pushing, the Eagles are going to continue to run it at a very high rate, and I think eventually they'll just say that you can't take a snap from under center and immediately surge forward, and they'll cite hard to officiate and player safety, and it'll all be garbage. But I think that's where they will eventually go.
I'm actually not worried about that. I don't think that'll happen. And if it does, it'll be how you just said, where
it'll be multiple years down the road.
Yeah, it would be where they ban the pushing and then they ban that. They're not going to be able to sell like banning the QB sneak next offseason because it sounds ridiculous. And but the thing about it's harder to make that hard to officiate claim because it's been happening for 80 years. Like QB sneaks are not anything new. So I'm not worried about the QB sneak going away.
Yeah, I don't think it matters, to be honest. I mean, it matters, but I don't think it'll make as big of an impact. It's going to be harder to sneak it from a full yard away without pushing. But you're not going to stop at half a yard, even without the pushing, I don't think.
It's funny that the NFL turned on the tush push, because originally the NFL liked it because it influenced scoring. It meant that there's going to be more scoring if teams have the ability to go for it on 4th down and extend it. They only stopped liking it once it became such a controversial thing, and the Eagles kind of spammed it and abused it to the point where we're running it a million times, which we should. But it's funny that the NFL turned on it. But I don't think that they're going to hate QB sneaks. So, yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Some brief thoughts on the tush push to wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining us for episode number 203 of Chalk Talk. We will be back on Monday next week. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, be sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next episode. Turn on notifications on YouTube if you want to catch us live. Otherwise, you can catch us on audio platforms later that day. Drop us a 5-star rating wherever you stream your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at ShaneHalfNFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr., and we will catch you guys next time.